So here we are. We've done all of our skinning. We've created all of our skeletons that we need, and we've merged everything into a single skeleton at the end here. Now we're gonna go in and do our apex rigging. This is the fun part. This is what I guess we've all been waiting for. And if you have been following along, you see here that this looks pretty complicated in the end. But the thing is that we're using a lot of the same technique throughout. So it's really it looks like a lot of nodes, but I mean, think about it. It's just basically your work recorded, right? So it's really not that many steps. And one quick note here I wanted to make is, if you really did want to clean everything up, you could, especially within our skeleton network, you could just put this into a skeleton and just stash the input. And so now if I disconnect this node, we now have this skeleton node. And all of our names and everything, all of our names match up. All the joints are still there. But the only issue that I personally have with this is that you lose kind of the main bonus of working within Houdini, and especially rigging in Houdini, is that everything is procedural. So any changes that you make up top, you won't get down here, right? Because now you don't have that connection anymore. So I'm just going to pipe this parent joints directly back into this null and get rid of the skeleton. So I'm going to make everything live, right? So I'm going to keep everything procedural so that we can use this this environment, or rather utilize the main benefit of rigging in Houdini, which is the proceduralism. And besides, we're not going to animate with this file, right? Like, we're not going to toss all of this into an HDA and then put down an animate node on top of this. What we're actually going to use is just a simple BGO file. So, for example, if I just load up a version of our robot rig, toss this over here, this is the rig, right? This is it. And if I just put down apex add character, pipe this into the right slot, and then we'll open this up and put down an apex scene animate, hit enter, and now we have our rig. So this is the actual file that we're going to work with. We're not going to work with this. I mean, we can have this as a separate Houdini file document, right? But then the actual rig, right? Like, the actual thing that we're going to work with, what we're going to animate with, is going to be this BGO. So it's super light, it's super fast, and a lot less nodes, right? A lot easier to work with, which again is just another huge bonus with all this. So yeah, that's essentially how we're going to do this. So I'm going to get rid of this, and let's go ahead and start with the apex rig. So first things first, I'm going to need a guide skeleton. So we can get rid of this rig pose and bone deform here. If you remember, this is where our guy was. Looking pretty cool. Delete. So I'm going to pipe our skeleton over to the right here, and I'm going to create a guide skeleton that's going to serve key functions in a couple things. A center of gravity control, pole vector controls for the IK arm, and a global control for translation, for global translation, global scale, global rotation. So let's go ahead and do that. First things first, I'm going to split our arm joints, or just rather a few arm joints in here. I'm going to grab these arm, elbow, rotate joints. So we're going to say name, let's turn off capital, equals arm, elbow, rotate, underscore star, because I want both of those. Make sure we're on a point group selection. So now we have both of these. I'm going to put down a rig pose, and I'm going to move these guys around a little bit. So let me open up my geometry just so I can have that as a reference. Okay, so within this rig pose, I'm going to hit enter and just select both of these guys. And I'm just going to want to move them up. Okay, there we go. So these are going to be our PV joints. Now I need to name these so that I can pick them up later. So I'm going to use the replace function again. So I'm going to say string Ori is our name. String bad is going to be elbow rotate, because I want to replace that elbow rotate string with PV-CTRL for pull vector control. So I'm going to say name equals replace, and we're going to say Ori, and replace the bad with the good. So now if I go here, I have arm PV-CTRL, R, arm PV-CTRL, L. Great. So these are done. So I'm going to put down one more split. Let's delete this up here. And I'm going to need a center of gravity control. And the center of gravity control is going to sit right on top of this spine 0 control, or joint rather, right in there. So let's grab that. Spine 0. There it is. Let's give it a name. Let's call it COG point. Okay. That's done. And last but not least, we're going to need a global control. So I'm going to put down a simple add here, right? And we're just going to add a single point. And I'm going to add it at the center point, the 0, 0 point of our world coordinates, because that's essentially where we're always going to want that. So one thing I could do is I could move around. I mean, the great thing is that if I move around the geometry, so if I move the geometry up, all of the joints will move along with it, because I didn't create any of the joints by hand. I created all the joints procedurally, right? Using the actual geometry. So the skeleton will just move along with the geometry, but we're not going to do that yet. We're just going to create our global control first and get everything wired up, make sure it's all working, and then we can make adjustments later. Call this global. Okay, let's merge these two. So now we have our COG and our global. And I need to remember to put down a rig doctor and initialize transforms. Boom. Okay, so now these are all good. All right. Last thing here, let's merge these. Let's put down a parent joints, and let's do a little bit of parenting. So let's open this up, rig tree. Okay, so these pull vector controls, I want these to move around with the center of gravity control. So I'm going to put those into the center of gravity, and the center of gravity is going to go into the global. Great. So that's done. I'm going to pull this over here, put down a merge. Whoopsie. Okay, this is going to go here, because the original skeleton has to go in with the guide skeleton. Okay, so if I turn that off, now we have our guide skeleton mixed in with the original skeleton. Okay, and then we'll pipe this into the third slot of our pack folder, and we'll call this guide skeleton. Awesome. The guide skeleton is done. Let's highlight this. And I'm going to make this black. Cool. All right, so now we're officially ready. Let's start with our first Apex auto rig component. And this is going to be our FK. Let's make the FK component here. And now automatically it's going to turn everything into an FK control. And I don't want everything to be an FK control. I only want the tags that I set up top. So let's go to the controls here, and I'm going to put down %, tag, %, tag, FK. All right, cool. So now we have FK where we want it, and it's all working just good. All right, and you notice that I don't have any FK on the spine because I'm not going to use FK on the spine. All right, and one thing we could do just to kind of troubleshoot how things are going and how the rig is actually moving is we can throw down a bone deform down at the bottom here just to see how our deformations are looking. So within the bone deform, this one's interesting. Within the bone deform, what we have to do is once it's hooked up, you refresh it. So now we have this. And to show you the way, to show you how this works, I'm going to open up the what is it called? The Apex Network View. Okay, so let's jump back up to our FK. I'm going to put down an unpack folder. Uh-oh. I just made my first mistake. Let's see if things don't completely crash on me. Okay, all right, we're starting to get some craziness here. I'll show you why in just a sec. All right, let's cut that. There we go. Okay, now, really important. When you're going to unpack your folder, make sure that you're only unpacking the rig, okay? Because what happened before was I unpacked the rig, the skeleton, or rather the base shape, and our guide. But the big thing here is the base shape, okay? And this guy has like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 polygons probably. So that's a couple of 100,000 extra nodes that it has to show within the Apex network view. So make sure that when you do your unpack, you're only grabbing just the rig, if you need the rig. Okay, so now really quick, just to show how the bone deform works. Let's pin this so we don't lose it. Is in the Apex network view, if you go to this last node here where it says set point transforms, this is what we're going to need to reference over here in the animated skeleton, okay? So let's fill out the rest of these things here. So for the rest geo, we need the base shape. The rest skeleton is going to be base skell. And the output geo, again, is going to be the base shape. And then within this animated skeleton, this is where we're going to put that node, the name of that node. So point transform, okay? And then we need to get this output here. So this will be point transform dot geo. See, point transform dot geo, point transform dot geo. So that's why you need to fill that in like that, because it's grabbing in, or rather it's grabbing this node right here. All right, and then you need to promote the rest geo, the skeleton, and the output geo, and there's our guy. So let's see how he's looking. Fantastic. So everything's nice and speedy, just like how we want it. Okay. All right, cool. So this is all working. I'm actually going to I'm going to go back up to the FK, and I'm going to promote scale as well so that I can scale these things. So I need to refresh. Okay. Oopsie. There we go. So now scale is working. Awesome. Cool. So we can get rid of this unpack folder. We don't need that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our center of gravity control. All right. So I'm going to put another auto rig component into here, and we're going to call this transform driver. So we're going to select the transform driver component. And it always comes in with 3 different components here, or selections. So I'm just going to get rid of these 2 and just give myself 1. First things first, I'm going to start off with okay, really quick. It's going to look for our guide skeleton, right? And also, I called my skeleton guide, and this is listed as guides. So I'm just going to get rid of that S. So now we're actually grabbing in our guide skeleton. And I'm going to work with the global transform first. So we're going to grab this. So now we have our global control made. It's kind of hard to see. It's right here. There we go. That's our global control. And then we're going to make one. Well, here, let's do this. So the driven is going to be the COG. So let's make one more. The driver is going to be the COG. Parent is going to be the global. We're going to make the control and promote transform and rotation. So now we have our center of gravity control down here, and the global is now controlling the center of gravity. Pretty neat, huh? So the next thing what we want to do is we want to set the center of gravity to drive the spine 0. So let's put down, which is the spine root, right? So now it moves everything. And then the global moves the cog. Awesome. So transform driver set up. Next, let's put down our spine. Let's go up to the component, select the spine. Okay, let's go to the driven. So our naming conventions are almost correct here. We're going to go spine 0. There we go. So our spine controls are now being driven by the proper joints. So now the cog is working and the spine is working, but we're seeing that we have this kind of odd kink in here. So what you have to do with that is, you have to go into settings and change the curve order to 4. So now we have a nice straight spine. Awesome. And one more thing, if we want our global to be driving everything properly, well, first out, we need to go in and make sure that we're using our guides. Okay, so everything's working. Great. All right, cool. So now our spine is set up. So let's move on to the arms. So one more Apex auto rig component. We'll call this IK. We'll go up to the component list, choose smooth IK, and let's set this up. All right, now a couple of pretty important gotchas here, considering the way I set up my naming conventions. So if I let's go to our skeleton and let's open up the names. You see that I used capital letters for my left and right tokens, and down here they're lowercase. If these are lowercase, they're not going to be able to find your tokens correctly. So you have to make sure that everything is capitalized. Also, you have to make sure that we are looking for our guide. And one other thing, if you watch my IK video, you have to make sure that the pole vector is the same name as your guide skeleton's pole vector joint. So that would be these pole vectors up here. So these are arm, PV, CTRL, R. So let's go ahead and here we'll start with the left. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay. And this will be the name of our IK handle. All right. And you see that it's already there. It already showed up. Okay. And now the mirroring's working. The mirroring's working properly. So let's get rid of the names. Well, actually, I'm going to select this, hit W so that it's templated. And now I can see my names here of our joints. And I'm going to use that to just jot down, because I didn't set up any tags for the arms, because there's only, this is a pretty specific rig. So I'm just going to go in and just type in the names directly. So the root is going to be arm connect ball L. And oh, we lost them. Let's see. And this is going to be arm elbow rotate L, and then arm wrist pivot L. Okay. I'm having trouble getting the wrist to work. Hang on. Let me jump into here. I'm going to jump into my parent joints. Go to the rig tree. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, I had the naming wrong. So there's an underscore in there. Arm underscore wrist underscore pivot. Okay, let me see. So let's jump back here. Get that underscore in there. Okay, nice. There we go. So that's working. We can get rid of this. All right, great. So let's jump down to the bone form. Get rid of the names. Hit enter. And now let me see. Oh, we have to update everything. Whoops. Let me get rid of this error message. Sorry about that. Okay, great. This is looking super duper. And if I go into my spine here, spine's looking good. All right. Spine stretches out nicely. Very nice. I just noticed. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, the spine is not aligned properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that. So let's jump back up to the spine to where we're making our center line here. And let's see. Let's put down an orient joints. Okay. Now all the joints are oriented. Let's see. Yeah, they should be good now. Okay, let's jump back down. Select everything. Hit refresh. Let's get rid of this. Back to the bone deform. Okay, that's looking good. All right, nice. Now everything is updated properly. I hope you just saw that, how awesome that is. Man, if that happened in like Maya or something, you'd be so screwed. Cool. So the rig is basically set up. I think I'm missing something here. Let me see if I have those hook controls. Let me see. Hook. Yeah, I don't think I ever set up the hook controls. Okay. So let's jump back up. Let's jump to the arms. Let's see. So we get our arm joints. Right. Yeah, I never actually set up the FK tag for the hooks. All right. So these are the hook controls. Let me see, which one is this? This is the wrist pivot. Okay. So let's put down an attribute wrangle here. So we're going to say add FK. Put down append and string tags FK. All right, now we want to make sure that we're grabbing everything except for the wrist pivot. So we're going to say star for everything, underscore name equals that. Okay, so now our hooks have FK. Let's jump back down here and let's see. There we go. Yeah, you see how it's, okay, there we go. So now these are being controlled. So everything's set up. So now we can go ahead and start configuring the controls. Okay, I'm gonna make this blue just to kind of, mesh with the rest of the Apex color scheme we got going on here. Okay, so let's start with, let me see, we'll start with the antenna. I'm just gonna grab this so I don't have to write antenna. And I'm just gonna say antenna underscore R or star. All right, so we're gonna grab, let's grab a ball, make it just a bit bigger, not so big, something like that, and we'll make it red. Okay, let's do the cone. Or the head cap, rather. I'm gonna make this into a cone. I'm gonna blow that up, kind of flatten it out a bit. Make that arbitrary color. Let's do another one. Grab both of our eyes. Put the star there, right? I emit star, grabs both of our eyes. And I'm gonna make this a 3D cross. It's kind of hard to see that it's in there. Shape offset. Let's blow it up. There we go. Let's give this a shade of blue. Okay, another one. We're gonna get our shoulders. We do both of them. Torus, shape offset. Let's rotate it 90 degrees in the Z. These are the ones we're working with right here. Let's blow them up. All right, and let's translate them out in the X. Or rather, let's do this. Just move them up a little bit like that. Okay, let's do our IK. So for our IK handles, I'm going to make this into a box. Let's see, I'm going to blow it up until I see it in my viewport. It should be right in there. You see, it's kind of small right now. Okay, maybe a little smaller. Cool. Let's get our PV controls. Okay, so I'm going to hit this button here, and that adds another configuration above it, so I don't have to keep on scrolling down. Okay, let's do our pole vectors next. Make this into a ball, blow it up. Color, let's see, maybe, yeah, blue. Okay, let's do our hook controls next. The controls that for our little grabbers here. Okay, let's do the hook A first on both sides. We'll make this into a torus and we'll translate it up. Oops, I'm translating our PV control. Let's see, I want the hooks. There they are. Let's rotate it 90 degrees in the X. Blow them up. Okay, we're just gonna move them out a little bit like that. All right, let's do one more. And we'll get hook B this time. Same thing, torus. And I'm gonna copy the scale down here and just paste that. I'll move this down, rotate it, just get it right where I want it. Okay. Cool. So that's the upper body. Now we're going to go ahead and do the lower body. So we'll put down another configure controls. And I'm going to keep this separated within 2 of them because, you know, we're already getting kind of heavy with controls here. So I'm just going to do another one. We're going to call this lower body. So I'm going to grab our spine controls. I'm going to grab the chest tangent and the hips tangent. We use a torus. Actually, not the tangents. Yeah, okay, we'll do this. We'll make these into balls. And we'll say yellow. We want the hips and the chest hips. And these are going to be our tori. Okay, let's blow these up. 90 degrees in the X. Okay, cool. Next, let's do our COG. And for this guy, what was it? The blob? Was it the cross? Yeah, I like the cross. Okay, so for this, we're going to blow that up. See it in there. We want to rotate it 90 in the Z and then in the F. Let's see. So the cog is set up. Okay. Let's do our blasters now. Let's see. Blaster. Here it is. Blaster body. Delete the L, put a star. So now we're doing both. And I'm going to do, where was it? The line, is it line B? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, now I'm going to rotate this so it's pointing downwards. Blow that up. Whoops. Okay. So we have this. Very cool. Give this kind of a bluish color, something similar to the blaster shape in there. All right, so there's really only one more control to do, and that is the global control. So for the global control, I'm actually going to make my own control. I'm going to make my own shape, and then I'm going to plug that in to another Apex configure controls node. So let's go ahead and set that up really quick. Okay, so I have just a quick custom shape that I made before. It's pretty simple. I just made a little triangular curve, made a circle, merged them together, group just the edges, extract just the edges, give it a name, and output it. So the name is important, right? You want to be able to find it when you actually set up your custom control. All right, so we have our custom controls right here. So I'm going to put down one more configure control. I'm going to call this custom CTRLs. And we're going to plug this into the second slot. Okay, let's hit enter. All right, so here we are. Let's make a configuration. This is going to be global. And the shape override is going to be global, right? Because that's the name that we called it from before. All right, and that is essentially done. There we go. Okay, so let's take our global, and I want to be able to see it because he's sitting like right in the center of our guy here. Let's do, let me see. Interestingly enough, the global should be, all right, I'm going to have to check out the parenting here because the global should be moving everything. Okay, I just realized why because when I originally set this up, I had it so that our center of gravity control is driving the IK controls because it was actually just easier to animate that way. And so I missed a pretty important step here within the IK, and that is to set it up so that the drive parent is the center of gravity. So now that works. And the global is driving everything else. Okay, great. Okay, so let's take our global control and let's move it down. So I'm just going to move it to the bottom of our character and we'll blow it up. Okay, great. So now if I put down an Apex add character and animate, yeah, our character is basically ready to go. He's ready to be animated. Everything's working. We have IK, pull vector, a bunch of little controls, move the head around, the waist, blow up the eyes. Awesome. And everything's live. So let's try to make one more small change. And I want to move our character up, right? So his waist rather is more in the center of our scene. So all we really need to do here, let's select our import. I'm going to go into the side view. Put down a transform first. And then just move them up. So our waist, the waist is kind of sitting right at the center point there. Right? Maybe the center of the spine. That makes more sense. All right. And since everything was grabbed from the joints, if I go all the way back down to the custom controls, well, here we just have to make sure that everything is updated. So let's select all of our nodes here and hit refresh. Okay. Let's go to the custom controls, and everything is updated perfectly. Okay, so the rig is done, or the rig is basically done. There's a lot that can be done here. For instance, it would be nice if the wrist were to orientate to the IK, so you wouldn't get this issue here. Maybe some deformation in the head, but this is just a pretty simple rigging setup, just to kind of show really quick, or relatively quickly, how you can get a character up and running within Apex. So of course you can take this and save this out. So let's put this over here. We'll call this final rig. And I'm going to put this into a ROP geometry output. And I'm going to save it. All right, so let's load this file back up. And instead of plugging all of this crazy mess into this Apex scene add character, let's just plug this. And you see that? It even held the rig, or the pose and everything. Very, very cool and extremely fast. So there you go. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And thank you for watching.